Our guest today is the Director of MBA Admissions and Recruiting at Mays Business School, good friend, Patti Cudney. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. It's a beautiful day in Aggieland.
It's very foggy. As I was driving in, it was reminding me of living in San Francisco.
Yes. I was driving back from the airport earlier this morning, and the nice thing about Texas weather is if you don't like it, just wait 5 minutes.
Absolutely.
So we'll start off with our icebreaker question. What is your favorite superpower?
My favorite superpower. Someone asked me this question recently and I had a hard time answering it. I think if I were to have a superpower, I wish I could travel through time.
Yeah.
I'm very fascinated with other time periods. Love the history, Middle Ages, going back really far. I think that would be really awesome to be able to travel through time.
So if you could go to 1 year, would it be like the Magna Carta or, you mentioned the Middle Ages?
I don't know that I have a particular era that I'm really into. I think in general, just the idea of seeing what life was like in all of these other times would be really fun.
I think you're right. Although I might miss indoor plumbing after a while.
Well, true.
So you and I bonded over TV when we first met, and we discussed it again recently at the grocery store of all places. What are you watching these days?
Well, I finally am kind of onto Netflix and Amazon Prime and all that. And so watching all of these series that are coming up. And, my favorite recently is The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I love that show. It's so funny. It's so well put together. It just always makes me laugh, always makes me think. And I really enjoy it. When
you come back to the shows that you come back to the most, what do you find you're coming back for the most often? Is it the humor? Is it the story, the acting? What tone?
I think it's the humor.
Yeah.
I really like things that are light and funny. Not to say that I dislike a drama, but I don't know. I think that's where my gut takes me, as to where there's some fun and humor.
Good stuff. On a more business school related note, so in addition to recruiting for the MBA programs here at Mays, you have completed an MBA yourself. What's your fondest memory from your own MBA program?
At the people. I didn't study business undergrad, and so everything was brand new to me, and really some subjects were pretty challenging. But knowing that I was with a group of people that I felt comfortable with, that I felt safe with, that, to this day are still some of my favorite people in the world. I think that's the biggest thing that I took away. I loved my classes and I loved some of the experiences, but if I had to just pick a theme overall, it would be the people that I had a chance to meet. What
made you decide to get an MBA, not having majored in business?
Sure. So I worked for a really small consulting company, and I had a boss that took an interest in me, and she had gone back to school and gotten her MBA, and she really put the, kind of idea in my head, and I started thinking about it a lot and went back and forth on, do I do it part-time, full-time? And finally just decided to take the plunge and do it full-time, and very glad that I did.
You mentioned that a lot of it was new for you. What was the hardest part of the MBA program, or the hardest lesson you learned?
The hardest part, I would say, was just kind of getting my mind wrapped around a different way of learning. I was political science and English undergrad, so it was a lot of reading and writing, and then I'm going to something where there's a lot of problem sets and formulas. And so just having to reframe my mind was a little bit of a challenge. But once I got there, I felt pretty comfortable and I knew that I could handle it. Wasn't the best student in the class, but, did well enough and, was really pleased with what I had a chance to learn.
So now you've moved to MBA admissions. Tell us a little bit about how you got here.
Sure. So when I was in business school, I had a grad assistantship in the admissions office, and I'd always done volunteer work for my undergrad institution, reaching out to prospective students, and just had a thought one day of, I had this great corporate internship, but what if I were to do something different, and started exploring options in higher ed and ended up finding a great job right out of business school. So I've been doing MBA admissions for about 15 years now, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm still in business school, but I don't have to take tests. So totally okay with that.
That would be fine with me too. I kind of enjoy podcasting here for the same reason. So let's back up a second. Why should someone get an MBA? Countless media outlets from CBS to Forbes list X number of reasons not to. Mm-hmm. In fact, when I Googled it, I was a little disconcerted by the number of articles saying, here's why you don't need your MBA. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, I have an opinion about that.
You should.
But what's your answer?
It's changed over the years because as technology has advanced and there have become a lot more alternatives for going back to school and sitting in the classroom, I think that question is harder to answer than it used to be. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's not just an education. It really is an experience. You have an opportunity not only to learn those formulas and learn those concepts, but put them to use in a variety of ways. If you're doing a full-time program, you might have consulting projects. If you're doing a part-time program, you can take it to the workplace right away. You also get that chance to engage with peers that are coming from different backgrounds. I have friends that have done online MBAs that kind of felt like they missed out on that a little bit. Mm-hmm. But in general, I feel like the MBA experience, it's not just taking a class and learning one particular thing. It's about how everything fits together, and how you have this improved overall understanding of how business works and how you as an individual can be a contributor.
That's well said. What do you think, I'm going to throw you a softball here. What do you think sets the Mays MBA program apart from other MBA programs?
Culture is a big part of it. The Aggie culture in general, I think, is different. And I think when you're in an MBA program, sometimes you just focus on your MBA program or just the business school. And here we really do integrate the Aggie culture into everything that we do. So people aren't just an MBA grad or a Mays grad. They really are a Texas A&M grad. And I feel like that culture, that spirit of Aggie land, that, kind of adherence to the core values of Texas A&M really is infused into everything that we're doing. And I think that it puts forth just a different type of graduate than you might find at your typical MBA program.
One of the things that I enjoyed most about being here, and I'm biased because this place is in my blood. I grew up here. My dad's been a professor here for 40 years now, but I felt like it was coming to this program was a little bit like coming home for me. And I wondered, if you had to point to a single moment, let me back up a second. A lot of places talk about their culture and it's different. Many places will say it's different here. Mm-hmm. And it probably is. Mm-hmm. But I enjoy the way that this particular institution is different. If you had to point to a single memory that encapsulates the Texas A&M culture, what would that be for you?
Oh, gosh.
Take your time.
I don't know that it's easy to come up with an answer. I really do feel like it's a series of things. Okay. And it even goes back to before I worked here. I was at another school in Texas for many years and had a chance to, be around Aggies and, get to understand that spirit of, always wanting to give back, always wanting to be a part of this community wherever they were. Mm-hmm. And so before I even took this job, I kind of felt a connection to this place. Being here, I would say, just having that opportunity to see the students kind of change and grow and be really thankful for that opportunity. You don't see that everywhere. I think a lot of people come out of an MBA program and they're like, okay, I'm done. Time to move on. And here there is that tie back. You have that chance to reach out to former students and ask for their help. And I just did a dinner in Austin last week and, had 3 of our former students there and they were so excited. And, as I was leaving, they said, well, when are we going to do this again? How can we help you? And, just having that spirit of wanting to help, of wanting to participate, is pretty powerful.
there's a sense of altruism, I guess, a sense of wanting to pass things on to not necessarily the next generation, although I guess it is the next generations are shorter, I guess, at an academic institution. So let's talk details of the programs. What are the different MBA programs offered here at A&M, and who should be thinking about those different programs?
Sure. So we basically offer one MBA, but in 3 different formats. So you have your more traditional full-time MBA program designed for people that are, stepping away from work, coming back, focusing on the education and the experience. Tends to draw more career switchers because you have that internship between year 1 and 2 so that you can put some new skills to the test or explore an area of interest. It's even a little different from other full-time programs. It's 1.5 years as opposed to 2 or even just 1. So our students are able to take a lot in. They have a couple of different consulting projects that they do while they're here. So they're able to put those skills to the test, not only in that internship, but also during their time here in the program, which I think is really fun to watch. And then we have our 2 programs for working professionals that are based in Houston. So these are both weekend programs. So you don't have to step away from work. You're continuing to gain that professional experience along with the education. And they're for people at different phases of their careers. So you've got the professional MBA. Average student has somewhere between 6 and 8 years of experience. And then the executive MBA, which is typically 15 to 16 years of experience on average. So folks that are at slightly different levels of responsibility and, kind of that strategic decision-making authority within their businesses. But again, that opportunity to learn on weekends, come back, put it to work in your day-to-day life in the workplace as well.
What's the average work experience in the full-time program?
It's typically between 5 to 7 years.
Okay. So all of these programs require some type of work experience.
Yes.
Why does that matter?
These programs are designed so that you're not only learning from the faculty, but you're learning from your peers. And so we want to make sure that everyone is coming in with a good professional foundation. Doesn't matter if it's a business discipline or not. We have people that are coming in from the military. They've been teachers, but people that have had experience, that have had those levels of responsibility where they've been responsible for projects, sometimes maybe even budgets and people, depending on how many years of experience they have. It's also what the prospective employers want to see. They want to know that not only do you have this education, but you have that professional foundation that you're bringing into the program. So if they're looking to hire you for an internship or a job, they know that you're not just coming in with that education, you're also coming in with that professional skill set.
So what do you say to someone who applies straight out of undergrad?
We'll typically have a conversation with them about what is motivating you to do this? Why? And a lot of times it's, well, I've been told that having an MBA is a good thing, which is not untrue. But, we want to understand that someone knows what an MBA actually is, right? They know what they're going to get out of it. And a lot of times people don't really have the chance to know that until they've worked a little bit and they can kind of get a sense of what's maybe missing in my skill set. What do I need to enhance? What do I need to add? And, when we have those younger candidates, we'll have that conversation with them and ask them what their goals are. And many times they're just not ready to have a clear goal and a clear understanding of what an MBA is. If they're really interested in a degree right away, we can certainly talk to them about master's program opportunities, which typically don't require work experience. But MBAs are designed a little differently.
Right. That makes sense. So some people come in without working out career goals before they apply for an MBA program. Obviously, choosing career goals can seem a little overwhelming for some people because it's difficult to see what you're going to enjoy. I know for me, I thought that the list of things that I would enjoy doing professionally was very short. And it's turned out that list is actually pretty long. So what are some career questions that people should answer for themselves before they interview with you? And I'm going to follow that with, are there any questions that it's okay to leave unanswered coming in? So deal with that in any order you want.
So when we're talking to someone about their career goals, really we want to understand that there's a connection between where they see themselves going professionally and what they're going to get out of an MBA program. Mm-hmm. You know, if someone comes in and their goals for the future don't require having an MBA, then why are you potentially investing all of this time and money into pursuing a degree that isn't going to help you? But for the full-time program in particular, we want to understand your goals because we also know how quickly that whole job search process starts. There are national career fairs that start in September each year. And we want to know that someone has thought about some opportunities. That's not to say that you have to be 100% committed to one goal, right? We always want to talk to people, what's your primary goal? Why are you interested in that? What's that backup plan or plan B? You're going to get here. You're going to talk to your peers. You're going to have classes. It's going to give you that opportunity to change your mind. But coming in with an idea, that helps prepare you for what the process is going to look like for searching. But that, again, also ties back to the why do you want to do this? Is an MBA the right degree for you? In terms of questions that can be unanswered, do you mean specific to careers or?
Sure. I know that a lot of people stress about the process and they think, I have to have this all figured out. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking more in terms of what it's okay to not have figured out.
I think, you don't have to have those laser focused goals. You don't need to come in and say, I want to be a brand manager at PepsiCo, right? We don't need you to be that specific, but we want to know that you've thought about options because, again, that ties back to why are you motivated to pursue this degree in the first place? We just want to know that there's a line of thinking, that there's a story that you're going to be able to tell about why you're doing this.
Something that it seems like this has kind of been the consensus I've put together in my mind from different people that I've spoken with is it's good to have a pretty specific direction and be willing to change it.
Absolutely.
Is that a good way of kind of summing it all up?
Yeah, I would agree. Having a specific focus or a specific direction is great, but it's not a deal breaker. We'll have some people that'll, say, well, I'm kind of torn between a couple of things, and that's still perfectly fine. It's the folks that we talk to that say, well, I'll figure it out when I'll get there, or I want to do this or this or this, and they just come up with this laundry list. Those are the ones that I think need to spend a bit more time evaluating before they get into an MBA program.
Mm-hmm. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, or if you're Kyle, it begins with turning the keys in that sweet Mercedes. What has surprised you the most about the MBA admissions process?
It's that there are a lot of folks that don't know why they want to do this. And I know when I was going through that process, I thought about it for a really long time before I pulled the trigger. And I have experienced quite a lot of folks that you have that kind of Legally Blonde moment of they just woke up this morning and said, oh, I'll apply to business school. That happens way more often than one would hope. So we have a lot of very interesting conversations with folks as they're going through this process.
So what percentage of students do you think are applying to the MBA program, kind of like you just said, just because it's a cool chip to have on your resume?
I wouldn't say over half, but I would say, probably like somewhere between a third to a half.
That is way higher than I would have thought.
And it's more that they're making the decision based on outside factors. So sometimes it's, oh, it would be great to have a grad degree, or, oh, I'd love to tell people I have an MBA. But sometimes it's, well, I've been advised by a parent or an advisor or a colleague or somebody that this is something I should do. Without really understanding what it is. And just kind of saying, oh, someone thinks I should do this, then I'll just go ahead and do it. And they haven't really thought about it much yet.
So assuming someone is doing this for the right reasons, it's someone we would, potentially be interested in. If you were to give a candidate one weird trick to improve their MBA admissions prospects, maybe something no one else has told them before, what would it be? It could be application related, interview related, or something else.
I think this kind of touches both on the application and the interview, but it's just, you've got to be yourself. I mean, there's a lot of people that come in and, you can tell when someone's uptight when they're in an interview, they're not comfortable. And it's not because of nerves. It's because they're trying to put on this persona. I think there's a lot of people that think, well, if I'm applying to business school, they're going to expect that I want to be a consultant. I can't tell you how many people tell me they want to be consultants. Mm-hmm. But when you dig down a little deeper, that's not really what they want to do. We would rather that people be honest and open at the start, because an MBA can apply to so many different career paths. It's not just designed to make you a consultant. So if that's not what you want to do, don't tell us that. Be who you are. If you're someone that uses, $10 vocabulary words, then go right ahead. But if that's not you, because that's not me, your essays are going to not sound genuine. Your conversation with us isn't going to be as genuine. It's important to be yourself, because we're looking for that diversity of personalities, of educational and professional backgrounds. We're not looking for everybody to be exactly the same. So don't come in with the kind of the perspective that, oh, well, this is what they're looking for. You guys don't know what we're looking for. We're looking for individuals. And so show us who you are as an individual and let us get to know you.
I want to piggyback on something you just said. You talked about the idea that you don't want everyone to look and sound the same. So in terms of diversity, mm-hmm. Shannon and I have talked a fair bit about diversity on the show, but is there anything you can point to as far as, I'm just going to come out and say it, as far as what students who may come from a place of privilege, here I'm talking about straight people, white people, men, that sort of thing. How can those students help their classmates, their fellow applicants? What are some of the best things they can do to encourage diversity in the program?
I think the biggest thing is you want to challenge yourself when you're in an MBA program in a variety of different ways. And that starts with the people that you're going to be engaging with. You get into an MBA program, you're going to be assigned to a team, and that's going to be strategically put together so that you can learn from each other. But you want to do that outside of the day-to-day in the MBA program as well, right? You want to give yourself that chance to get to know your peers. You want to be open-minded to different perspectives in the classroom. You want to have those challenging conversations, between classes, because this is a safe space. It's a learning opportunity, mm-hmm. and you want to take out of it as much as you possibly can. So I think coming in with that mindset of being open and being vulnerable and being honest, I think is really important.
Mm. Do you have a favorite student success story?
So I had a student several years ago that went through the process, and we admitted him, but he was so dead set. I want to be a consultant. I want to be a consultant. Okay. And I said, with your background, I don't know if it's going to be super attractive to prospective employers. You might want to think about other things. And I remember he came into my office like right after orientation. We had admitted him and he enrolled, mm-hmm. and he said, I want to thank you for being honest with me. I applied to other schools, and, they were all like, oh, of course we can get you a top consulting job. And he's like, I started doing network, and he's like, you're right. I'm not that, cookie cutter candidate that a consulting firm is looking for. But I'm still here, and I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to try and find an opportunity that's the right fit for me. And he ended up, by the time he graduated, he found an internal consulting role with a major financial firm. And, of course, he came into my office and he said, I knew I'd be a consultant. And I said, I never said you wouldn't be a consultant. I just wanted you to kind of open your mind beyond what you thought a consultant was. And, I've kind of followed him through the years and seen him do some great things professionally. But, having that tough conversation with someone in the interview process, that's a little challenging, because they might be so focused on what they want to do, they're turned off, and they decide they don't want to come to your school, even if you admit them. And he still felt comfortable enough with us and the school that I worked with at the time to say yes and to come in and to work hard and to move in the direction that he wanted to. So, that's one of my favorites.
That's a heartwarming story. So you mentioned during that story, you mentioned the cookie cutter candidate that top consulting programs might be looking for. Is it, so you're looking for diversity of thought, diversity of experience. Is it do employers seem to approach things the same way, or are they focused? So consulting is obviously a sought after field. Probably investment banking is another one that some people come in very focused on. Do they? I'm pushing back a little bit on what you said earlier, which is the idea that if you're trying to play at the top of the business world, obviously I buy that it makes sense to be yourself. Does an investment bank want you to be yourself? Does a consulting firm want you to be yourself, or is there kind of this one image that they're looking for? Does it make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, I know what you're asking. I think over the years I've been doing this and having been through business school myself, there are certain qualities and characteristics that every company is looking for. I think that when you look across industries, consulting firms, they're all probably going to line up close to each other. Investment banks might do the same. Other industries, individual companies might have a bit more diversity. We, on the intake side, coming through admissions, we want to know that somebody's thought about what they want to do, and that we think that with the addition of our MBA, they can be successful and employable. We want to make sure that we're providing them and giving them the resources that they need to get to where they want to go. And sometimes that might mean taking a little move away from that goal that you have. Maybe that's not the first step after the MBA, after you kind of go through that process, but we still want to make sure that everybody is well prepared for where they want to go. There are some firms that are a little bit more standard in terms of what they might be looking for every year.
Sure.
There are some companies that, may kind of switch that up. And that's why we have a great career management center that does all of that corporate relation and employer relations and, gets to the bottom of what are you as a company looking for, and how can we prepare our students to do well on that process.
So obviously we don't want to make fun of anyone, but what is the worst or funniest interview story you can share with us?
I'll tell two. So one makes fun of me, and then the other one makes fun of a candidate, kind of. So starting with the candidate story, I was doing an interview, and I wasn't in my office. I was in a temporary office. And so I had forgotten that the way the office was laid out was a little weird. And this person, when we were done with the interview, started to kind of push back their chair, and it tipped over.
Oh.
And they ended up hitting their head on the bookcase that was right behind them. Luckily, no damage, but I had to get up and pick this person up off the floor at the end of their interview. So really just mortified and, couldn't believe that had happened. So that was kind of embarrassing. I actually got sick in the middle of an interview once and had to run out, food poisoning or something just hit me really bad. And that was embarrassing for me to have to be excuse me for a second and then just run out the door. Not fun.
I'm glad you recovered. So moving to some rapid fire questions. What do you consider your most valuable failure?
The first time I went up for a project, I was working in public relations consulting, and we went up for a big project and didn't get it. And I learned a lot, and it definitely helped me be more prepared for the next time we bid for a big project, which we were successful at.
Good. What do you think is people's biggest misconception of you?
Professionally, I think it's that I'm trying to keep people out. I think that a lot of people think admissions is about saying no, and really it's about saying yes. We want to help people be successful in the admissions process. We don't like telling people no. We don't have an unlimited class size, but we also, we want to see people be successful candidates. So I think that's probably the biggest one, is that we're trying to keep people out.
If you could have anyone as a mentor for one day, who would it be?
Phil Knight.
Oh.
I remember when I applied to business school, we had to write an essay about who we'd want to go on a cross-country road trip with, and he was one of the people in my car. But I've always been fascinated by the sports industry, and, seeing him take, a really generic product, a shoe, and making it into this huge lifestyle. I mean, that's pretty phenomenal. I would love to have an opportunity to learn from him.
What do you think was the most important thing that Nike did in making a shoe an aspirational brand?
I mean, it was tying to the athletes. I mean, is understanding that you have the power of the athlete to be able to market a shoe, something that people are going to wear every day. But this is something you want to be like Mike, right? I mean, you want to be like this famous person.
I want to be like Kyle, but that's a different story. So what's your fondest memory of Texas A&M?
Probably a couple of years ago at graduation, our hooding ceremony with our students, and I had a student come over to me and say, thank you. Thank you for admitting me. This was such a great experience. I met such wonderful people. And, that's always nice to hear, that someone kind of ties it back to, making the choice to apply and then making the choice to say yes and come here. That's always a nice thing to hear. Yes.
I remember at Admitted Students Weekend a couple of years ago, I guess it was 3 years ago now, I was talking with you about kind of what the program was going to be like, and you said, "Well, you're not going to be interacting with me as much now that you're in." And I remember thinking, "Oh, I want to hang out with Patti more."
Well, I mean, it is fun, but
yes, and we do get to hang out still sometimes, but. So we close each session with Good Bull. This is an opportunity to recognize someone else for something good or great they have done. Do you have someone you would like to send some Good Bull?
Yeah. So Olivia Morrison. So she's our administrative coordinator for the MBA program's office, really. I mean, but she works directly with me, and she has really brought a lot of energy into her role, being that front face with prospective students and with the current students. She's come up with a lot of really great ideas for improving what we do on the admissions and recruiting side, and just really appreciate. She's only been here for about 6 months, but really appreciate everything she's done in the time that she's been here.
Beautiful. Good job, Olivia. So, any closing thoughts for our listeners?
Oh, well. First of all, thanks for chatting with me this morning. I think the biggest thing is, if you're thinking about an MBA, think about it, really think about it. It's something that is a good fit for a lot of different people. You don't have to be a business major undergrad. You don't have to work in business, but ask questions. Talk to people who've gone to an MBA program. Talk to people that work for an MBA program, and we're here because we love what we do. We love this educational experience that we're providing to these students, and we want more great students. So we're always happy to have conversations and help people figure out if one of our programs might be a great fit for them.
Great. Patti, thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
It was
thank
a pleasure
you.
having you here.
Always.
Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to stay up to date on our latest videos, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to receive notifications. If you're in a rush or on the road, you can still join us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. If you want to learn more about us or our guests, please visit our website at mays.tamu.edu/podcasts. Also, please check out Mays Business School's academic programs. They're the sponsors of our show, and you can find them in the description. Thanks, and gig 'em.